Okay, so what if you could take a muddy, chaotic pile of construction trash and turn it into a pure, high-tech asset? Today, we're going to dive into how some incredible tech is doing exactly that, and it's completely flipping one of the world's oldest industries, waste management, on its head.
Yeah, that quote, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? There's this geopolitical trash war brewing between the US and Canada, and it all comes down to a standard of proof that is, well, frankly, impossible. I mean, how on earth do you create a perfect audit trail for garbage? You can't. Or at least you couldn't. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get into the whole geopolitical trash war that kicked off this crisis. Then we're going to explore this really elegant solution called the Digital Refinery and see its high-tech workflow. We'll also dig into the huge AI gamble it's taking. And finally, we'll reveal what the real product of all this tech actually is.
All right, first up, the geopolitical trash war. And you really got to wrap your head around this problem to understand why the solution is so clever. We're talking about a massive headache for any company trying to move waste across the US-Canada border starting in 2026.
And at the heart of this whole mess is this document, the 9-point Certificate of Origin. And trust me, this isn't just a form, it is an absolute administrative nightmare. Customs wants to know things like the tariff code and who originally made every single item in a load of trash. Just imagine trying to find the manufacturer of one Splinter 2x4 in a 10-ton pile of debris. It's nuts. And if you can't do it, you're looking at crippling fines. It's what people in the industry are calling a transshipment trap.
So what do you do when you're faced with an impossible game you can't win? Well, if you're one company, 905 would, you don't just try to play better, you flip the whole board over. And that brings us to their answer, the Digital Refinery solution.
And here is the core idea, the big pivot. They shifted from hauling trash to mining data. You see, the old haul and dump model is just a mess of guesswork, paper tickets, huge liabilities, and sky-high insurance costs. 905 Wood said, forget that. They don't even see themselves as a trucking company anymore. They're a data company. And they treat that debris like a high-fidelity data stream, aiming for what they call cryptographic certainty. It's like a digital fingerprint for garbage that's so secure nobody can argue with it.
Okay, that all sounds great on a slide, right? But how does it actually work out in the real world, on a muddy, chaotic job site? Well, let's get into the weeds of the high-tech workflow. And it all starts with this crazy powerful tool right in the driver's hand.
And this is not just another app on a phone. It is a full-blown compliance engine. In less than 2 seconds, an AI on the phone scans the load, scores its quality, and at the same time, the GPS locks its origin point, forever. It even gamifies the whole thing by showing the driver exactly how much money they're saving by avoiding that $60 per ton landfill fee. And then there's this feature I love. They call it hostile UX. It forces the driver to physically hold their thumb on the screen for 2 seconds to seal the deal. It's a tiny bit of friction designed to make it psychologically harder to mess up.
Now that app is just the first piece of a really brilliant logistics system, the hub-and-spoke model. You've got smaller bins out at the construction sites. Those are the spokes. They collect all the material. But instead of going straight to a landfill, everything gets routed to a central processing hub. And that hub is where the magic happens. It's where that initial data gets a reality check, gets validated, and then gets consolidated onto these huge mothership trailers. The whole system is built to move data just as much as it moves wood.
But this brings us to a really high-stakes gamble. The integrity of the entire system hangs on that very first point of contact, that AI scan on the driver's phone. And that begs the question, can you really trust a piece of software to identify something as serious as hazardous waste? This is where a lot of skeptics are waving a big red flag.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can a smartphone actually see poison? Look, your phone's camera is amazing at seeing colors and shapes, but it is totally blind to what really matters here, invisible chemicals. It can't see the arsenic in pressure-treated wood. You know why? Because it sees pixels, not atoms.
This is what critics call the glass cannon argument. The system is incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly fragile. The AI is only as smart as the data it was trained on. So when it runs into something different, like a rain-soaked pile of wood on a messy site, its accuracy can just plummet. And one single missed piece of toxic wood can contaminate the entire 18.8-ton load. This is the terrifying risk of silent failure, where the AI isn't just wrong, it's wrong with 100% confidence.
But 905 Wood saw this coming. Their whole solution is built on that classic idea, trust but verify with hardware. Think of it like this. The smartphone AI, that's just the triage nurse out in the field making a quick assessment.
But any load that's even a little bit ambiguous or is coming from a demolition site, it gets automatically flagged no matter what the AI thinks. It's sent straight to the central hub to see the doctor. A $40,000 sensor that performs a deep chemical scan. That's the machine that actually sees the atoms.
And this super robust verification process brings us to the final and, honestly, the most mind-bending part of this whole story. The real product here is data. Because after all that scanning and sorting and verifying, the most valuable thing that comes out of the digital refinery is not a pile of clean wood chips.
In fact, the physical wood is almost a byproduct. The true asset, the thing that solves that whole geopolitical trash war and opens up a brand new market, is the verifiable, unchangeable data that's attached to that wood. By solving the data problem, 905 Wood figured out how to create and sell cryptographic proof. And these final data products are serious business. The system spits out a physical, audit-ready manifest that's literally designed to make regulators happy. It generates all the data needed for that impossible 9-point certificate, which lets trucks just cruise past the border trap. It creates a permanent digital product passport, like a birth certificate for that wood's entire life. And get this, because they can prove the wood didn't go to a landfill, it even generates tradable carbon credits.
So that $60 per ton landfill fee, it basically becomes a reward. Use the system the right way and that fee just goes to zero. It says so right on the invoice. All of a sudden, compliance isn't some expensive headache anymore. It's not just a line item on an insurance policy, it's actually a revenue stream. They're not just selling waste removal, they're selling certainty.
And this really points to a much, much bigger picture. As global supply chains demand more proof, as carbon taxes get more serious, and as raw materials get more valuable, this whole idea of tracking every little piece of stuff in our world might go from science fiction to just business as usual. This was never just about wood. It's a potential blueprint for a future where nothing is ever really trash again. Which leads to one final question. In the future, will all trash need a passport?